We are going to spend again, as I said, time in Isaiah chapter 6. And there will be words up on the screen, so you don't need the Bible, but if you like the Bible, I think it'll be helpful. And so Steve has it if you like it. Our title tonight is Go and Say It to the People. When we talk about Isaiah, we have to remember that we're talking about a book and an author inspired by God that Jesus read, that Jesus read his words. So this was the Bible that, and of course the other books of the Bible, especially the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. But these are the words that Jesus read. And these, Isaiah is quoted more in the New Testament, or as much as any other book. And sometimes Isaiah, and I didn't know this until fairly recent, like 5 years ago, Isaiah is sometimes called the 5th gospel because it has so much in it about Jesus. Now tonight we're going to take a look at what Isaiah told the people, what he was told by God, and then what he also told the people, what his assignment was. This is early in his ministry. The first 5 chapters tell a little bit about the condition of the country. And the condition of the country was that they were very idolatrous. They did not listen to God. They have walked away. Perhaps in some ways we can make some comparison to our culture today. Okay? Our theme text is when Isaiah had this powerful vision. I don't want to call it a dream, and in fact I'm a little reluctant to even call it a vision because it was so real that I believe it was real. But it's described as a vision, and the vision comes through in the theme text. Let's take a look at the theme text, which says this. I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up. I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And we skip some verses, and then I said, Here I am, send me. This is Isaiah speaking. And he said, Go and say this to people. Now what did he tell Isaiah to tell the people? And what he told Isaiah to tell the people, he is also telling us. And in a way, you can summarize this entire message by saying it's about the Holy One, it's about the coal, the hot coal, and it's about the stump. Holy One, hot coal, stump. Got that? Avery, you got that. All right, the Holy One. And so, what are we talking about as far as the Holy One? Well, it's the Holy One of Israel. And that particular statement is found in Isaiah over 25 times. So, it is a presentation. The book of Isaiah is a presentation of a God who is a mighty God, a God who is a wonderful God, a God who is a very powerful God. And this is the image that Isaiah saw, this powerful God. The coal, well, let's take a look at that. The coal was because in the presence of the most mighty person, the most mighty, not person, an entity, in this presence, Isaiah felt as we, I'm sure, would feel, and as sometimes when we realize how powerful God is and how instrumental he is in our life, we do have that same feeling. We say, whoa. A little different language perhaps than what we would use. We would say, hey, or whoa, my lips are soiled. And so let's look at the text that talks about this in more context. And well, first of all, let's do it so it's a little bit easier on Ken. I skipped one. I want to go back to Isaiah 1, verse 4. This is a description of what the people were like. O sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, offspring of evildoers, children who deal corruptly. They have forsaken the Lord, they have despised the Holy One of Israel. The Holy One of Israel. They are utterly estranged. Then, let's take a look at the full text, which talks about the presentation of God, the Holy One of Israel, to us and to Isaiah. It reads this way. I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high, lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Now, for men, well, not for men, for myself, the train of a robe just doesn't, come across. Yeah, that's an awful lot of stuff to drag, but the train of the robe is this magnificent robe that is only exceeded by the magnificence of the presence of the Holy One of Israel. And so it is a dominating scene for Isaiah, one that causes us to fall upon our knees and say, "Oh Lord, I am not worthy." And this is exactly what he did. So again, the Holy One of Israel, the coal, and the stump. The Holy One of Israel then says this: I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each, there's more than one angel. And seraphim literally means burning ones. Burning ones. They were so bright and so powerful that the name says what they were doing. It was like a candle that wouldn't go out, and it also would not apparently harm, but they were burning. They were burning with power, and with strength, and with beauty. Each one has 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Holy, holy, holy is the one of Israel, the Holy One of Israel." And he called and he said, he continued, "The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke." Now, smoke would, of course, cause you to, if it's a kind that we would have from coals, it would cause you to not be comfortable. And perhaps it was that kind of smoke, but also it could have been simply the smoke of the power of the Most Holy One. The cloud that appeared when they went from Egypt to the Promised Land, when they crossed the Red Sea, at least what we refer to as the Red Sea. But it was, we look at TV programs or we look at the Super Bowl and we see all the explosions and the smoke going up. This was way before anything like that was even thought about. And it was there. And it was there in front of Isaiah, in front of us, the Holy One of Israel. So, what happens? What does Isaiah do? Isaiah says this: "And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people of unclean lips." We just read chapter 1, which talked about how terrible the society was. "For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphims, the angels, flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar." A burning coal. "And he touched it on my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for." Tonight, as you took, for those of you that participated, as you took the bread, as you took the wine, we received the same forgiveness, the same encouragement, the same understanding that we are forgiven and we can speak in the presence of God. We can speak in the presence of God because He has chosen us. And we can speak about the presence of God. So here we have the Lord of hosts, the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, now speaking to Isaiah. But Isaiah is ready, as we are ready, to hear and to listen, because Isaiah has been forgiven by the hot coal that touched his lips. It didn't smart, because it was a miracle. It was something that was given to him that only brought him joy and excitement and relief, as our forgiveness brings to us. "And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Let me say that again. What if the Lord, in the middle of the night, you heard this voice? Perhaps you were dreaming, perhaps you were thinking, perhaps you were praying, and perhaps you were repeating it, perhaps it came to you and you hear this, so who will I send? Or maybe when you get out of bed in the morning, and it's one of those tougher mornings to get out of bed, and you put your feet on the ground and you think about the day that is ahead, and you repeat these words, whom will I send? Send me, is what Isaiah said. And by the power and the grace and the strength of God, you and I can say the same thing. Send me. Send me for a day. Send me out to do what you intend me to do. The job that has been prepared for me. The vocation that I have. The people that I'm going to meet. Send me. Are you prepared? Yes, you are prepared. The coal has touched your lips. But what is Isaiah, in his particular situation, what is he supposed to say? What is he supposed to tell the people? Now, if you look in your scriptures, it ends in the verse 13. But prior to the verse 13, the Lord tells them they're not going to listen to you. And Isaiah says, how long do I need to keep telling them? And the Lord says, until there is no one left. Until there is no one left. But he said, 1/10 of the people will come back. Now in his situation, Isaiah's situation, he is being told that the people, his people, that had this God, with this temple, who thought they were chosen and were chosen, but thought because they were the children of God, that they would never ever suffer ultimate defeat. They would never ever be overcome. And yet Isaiah was saying it will happen. But they didn't listen to him. But then God did not stop there. And that's where the stump comes in. Remember we said the Holy One, the coal, and the stump. And the stump is in this verse. Verse 13. And though 1/10 remain in it, and this is talking about children of Israel coming back out of captivity, and it's like us coming away from the things that have kept us away from the knowledge and the understanding and the comfort of God. We come back. It said, although 1/10 remain in it, it will burn again like an oak. The terebinth is a big tree also like an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled. The holy seed is its stump. Talking very poetic. When we moved, Kitty and I moved from one house in Seward to another, to the one where we were at for over 30 years. It was a nice house. It was built in 1912, and it had been kept fairly well, but the last few years the outside has not been painted, and the property had become run down. And on the property was remains of some elm trees. I almost said oak, but it was elm trees. And for those of you that are too young to remember, Nebraska used to have these beautiful elm trees, right? And that was a perfect tree for Nebraska. And then the elm disease came from New York all the way at least to the east. Sorry about that, Kathy. But came from the east and just kept going across the United States. I lost you. Anyway, kept going across the United States. And the trees would die. And so we had this huge stump in our backyard. And the people that previously owned it, had rented it out, I think, they had made sure that it was cut down. I think that probably had to be done because it was an elm tree. But the stump remained. And so what do you do with a stump in the middle of your backyard? You get rid of it, so you call the people that can do that job. But then, in a funny way, there was a tree, a green one, growing out of the stump. Now, it would be perfect if I could say it was a shoot of the elm, but then it wouldn't have lasted. But what it was is an old hackberry. And hackberries, for those of you that know trees, and okay, do we save it or don't we? Well, it's got about a 5-year start. We're going to save it. It's a big tree now. So out of that stump came something that gave us shade pretty quick, actually, because hackberries, even though they're not so pretty, so like some of us, like some, point my finger at myself. Anyway, they're not so pretty. They do provide the shade that is needed for the people that live there, for us that live there. Now, when God told Isaiah, this stump is going to be there, it actually even says this better in chapter 11 of Isaiah. And he talks about the stump of Jesse with a shoot. And so we're talking about the seed. We're talking about the seed that turns into it. And though Isaiah probably knew what he meant, the people perhaps didn't, but he was talking about the Son of God, Jesus Christ. And so when we put the ashes, or we have them put on our forehead, and we said, dust you are, dust you shall return. Dust you are, and dust you are shall return. There is a solemnness about it. There is an appreciation of life. There is an understanding that we are given these days to use to His glory. And these days will be over. But it doesn't end there. Because the stump, the coal, and the Holy One of Israel is there. The Holy One of Israel, the coal is the faith that is brought to us, and the stump provides the Christ that we celebrate, that we enjoy, that we know, and that we come back to.